Top of the morning, everybody. The NFL inviting us right in for tea and strumpets. The league announcing its complete 5-game international series schedule. So 3 in London, home of the Jaguars, then Tom Brady in the league's first scheduled matchup in Germany, and wrapping up with the trip south of the border. You boys like Mexico? We got some unique storylines and odds on the DK Sportsbook to dive into. Good morning, everybody. I am Emerson Latzia, hosting a show called The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. Let's dive into all that fun stuff right meow with our pigskin panel, consisting of DraftKings contributors Reed T. Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich. First matchup in London, gentlemen, pairing up Minnesota and New Orleans with the Vikings as a teeny tiny favorite, just 1 point. The next week, though, sees the Giants and the Packers with Green Bay as a 6.5-point favorite. Which lines or totals jump out to you here, Jeff?
You know, they're both. It's interesting. Like there's actually probably some value in jumping on some of these lines early. There's some risk involved because injuries can happen, but I look at both these lines and I like the Saints quite a bit. I mean, I know that the Vikings have a higher win total right now at 9 versus the Saints at 8, but I really like what the Saints did with the draft. You also look at Kirk Cousins and his record against winning teams. Hashtag not good. So I think, you know, with the Saints adding Olave and Penning at the draft, I really like that move. They shore up their O-line. I think they're going to be a solid team. I think they're going to be a tough team to run against for the Vikings. I like that. And then you look at the Packers and the Giants. The Packers are minus 500 to make the playoffs, and the Giants are plus 225. And I think that number from the Giants is even a little inflated. I think you'll probably see this Packers line. It could be closer to 10 by the time this game actually goes off, which is like 10 months from now.
All right, Reed, how do you feel about it? Is it a good time to jump on any of these numbers?
No, it's not. Give me a break. I understand what Jeff's doing, and we have to do it. We have to take it. And congratulations to our technical director, by the way. But
for what? Do you want to explain to people what?
No. It's not my story to tell.
Okay.
But this is way too early. I mean, it's happening in 10 months. You know how much can happen in 10 months? A lot of stuff can happen in 10 months.
You know what else can happen, Reed? The Packers can become minus 12 favorites instead of minus 6. Mark the tape.
But who's Aaron Rodgers going to pass to? Is he going to do his best Tom Brady or Nick Foles impression and pass to himself? Who the hell is he going to pass to? Unless OBJ walks through there, unless someone else walks through there right now, the Packers have no one to pass to. So if you think Aaron Jones can run the ball, can line up out wide 1,000% of the time, the Packers could be 3.5-point favorites. And we don't know the Giants yet. I'm not saying that they're good.
I know the Giants.
We don't know. Yeah, we know the Giants historically, Jeff, with Gettleman and with the laundry list of bad coaches that they've had. And now they have Brian Daboll. We don't know. There's too many question marks. So if that's the case, I'd actually side with the Giants getting a touchdown. How do we know what the Packers are going to be without Devontae Adams? We just don't know. So if there's any number in this way too early prognostication, it is Giants plus 6.5. Give me all the points for the blue.
All right, whose side are you on here, Pierce?
You got Jeff, who is following the company line and making the producers happy. And then you've got Reed, who is basically saying this is ridiculous. I can't believe we're doing this segment. So I'm kind of in a tough spot here. So I will go ahead and stay on the side of our producers.
Yeah!
On this show. And you know what you got to do? Go get a reverse mortgage, take all of your money, and parlay all of the underdogs. Why not? It's only 6 months from now, and these teams are going to be riddled with injuries. So go for it. Have fun. Bet a bunch of Euro games.
Hell
yes. Mortgages. Do exactly what Pierce wanted you to do in 2009 and do all the exotic mortgages right now and, just be underwater in this economy. God, what are we talking about?
Joe, Viking Saints can be kind of sexy, though, too, because Kirk Cousins, Jameis, Dalvin, Alvin, Justin, and Michael Thomas, kind of some underrated big play potential there, Reed T. Fowler.
Is Theodore in there as well? Sounds like the
I tell you what. Let's get to the game everybody's talking about. America's team is also going to be returning to its home away from home here. The Jags will face off against Russell Wilson, who is now captaining the Broncos. Jacksonville is 6.5-point underdog. Kind of crazy here. But Pierce, they're a legit 500 team over there, going 4-4 in London. The Broncos are winless over there, Pierce. Yeah, 0-1. Tell me the home field advantage is a reason to hop on the plus 6.5 right now.
Sure, why not?
Yeah!
I've been on here saying the Jags are going to win the Super Bowl, so I might as well double down on the crazy.
Yes.
And it's not even that crazy. They played well in Europe, whatever that is, whatever that means. But I wouldn't be crazy to take the money line. I think the Jags are going to be better, and I'm not a big fan of Russell Wilson. I think he's done for. I don't think he's got much left. I wasn't really impressed by Denver last year. I don't think Denver's made that many improvements. And, the arrow's pointing upward for the Jaguars. They're helping, they've made their offensive line better. Their defense is better. Why not? Take the money line.
Yeah, Reed, Jacksonville should be improved under Doug Peterson here, dude.
Yes, thank you. This goes exact to my point in the beginning, is if you want to take an arm out on your mortgage, if you want to do all these things, you might as well do it on someone like Emerson's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. It's Doug Peterson. We don't know Brian Daboll's offense. We don't know Doug Peterson's Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a potential new look. So why not decide you're getting points, right? And we don't know what Denver's going to be like. I know Jeff is a Russell Wilson stan. He is going to tell us how dumb we are for betting against Russell Wilson in a better offense in Denver than he had in Seattle. Cortland Sutton, right? Jerry Jeudy, and now you got Javonte Williams. That's a 1-2-3 punch that you really like. And Denver's defense is solid. Now, the thing about Russell Wilson, and especially this offense with those receivers, is they historically not been healthy. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy have not been healthy. And if those guys are out, it's going to be Seattle 2.0. So get the points, baby, with the Jags.
Jeffrey, come on.
Russell Wilson is done? Like, what is going on this show today? Seriously.
Travis Etienne,
the guy is like
RB1
a season and a half removed from like a 6-game stretch where he basically played better than anyone in the league. Look, again, I just come back. You got to look at the longer term odds here when you're looking at these game lines. And I think this line is going to be a lot bigger in favor of the Broncos by the time we get there. The Broncos are tied with the Chargers to win the AFC West. The Jags are plus 450 to make the playoffs. The Broncos are minus 150. There's a bigger gap between these two teams than 6.5 points. And if you want to bet on the Jags, that's fine. But like, you're basically saying, okay, something disastrous is going to happen to the Broncos. Like, Russ is going to get hurt. They're going to have no receivers, or it's just going to blow up in their face. Both these teams do have new head coaches, but my God, it's Russell Wilson. He's not done. He's going to absolutely light up the league in Denver the next couple of years. No, you take the Broncos 6.5. This one's going to get to 10 too by the time the game goes off.
Germany's going to get its first taste of NFL action, so it only makes sense that Tom Brady is part of that rollout. Taking on the Seahawks, speaking of Russell Wilson's old team, who are projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. By the way, since 2017 here, guys, the under has hit on 8 of 13 games over there. Is that a trend to look at for this one with a total of 46.5, Reed?
Look, unless Tampa Bay puts up 30 plus, right, which is completely viable. I mean, look at that line. This is the Russell Wilson wake of them not having anybody. I mean, what did they get, right? What did they get this year? It's pretty much nothing. It's Geno Smith. DK Metcalf looks like he wants to stay in Seattle, so that's kind of nice. They picked up Nwosu from the Los Angeles Chargers. But speaking of that, there's no pressure that they can apply on this quarterback. That is the David Hasselhoff of the NFL. This guy is, he's going to be playing until he's 50. And when you got Brady, who throws the ball on the quickest, right? His release time is so quick. And you talk about Seattle, they were 7th worst in pressure rating. So the one thing that scares me is that Tampa Bay could put up 30 plus, and then this would be just 2 touchdowns for Seattle in garbage time that could go over this. I'm in Jeff's camp of waiting on this, or potentially waiting on this one, that this line could move down, right? This could move down. He thinks those lines could move up. This number could move down with how bad Seattle's going to be in the beginning of the season. So I want to kind of wait until this is maybe 43.5, maybe 44, maybe most likely 43.5, and then bet the over.
All right, it's Tom Brady's comeback tour here, Jeff. Bucks are still quite loaded. And there's some intrigue with Seattle. Like, is Pete Carroll actually going to roll out Geno Smith or Drew Lock as his quarterback?
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Yes, that's Pete Carroll. He thinks he's smarter than like the NFL, and that he can win with those guys. And yes, no, I don't want to wait on the number. I want to take the under today, right now. You want Drew Lock to score 14 points against the Tampa Bay defense? Good luck. Seattle was 6-10-1 to get to the under last year with Russell Wilson. This team is not going to score any points. Tampa Bay is going to go over there, put up 20 points, and their defense is going to take over. 46.5. This is, again, and we even have the trend of unders being, the favorite in the away game, in the, the overseas games. No, the 46.5, it's too big. I think the under right now is actually a good bet.
Is this going to be a feisty matchup, Pierce?
Yes, it will. Take the over. Seattle is going to come back to life now that Russell Wilson is out of town. We know those receivers are good. We know the running backs are good. They've improved the offensive line. What was the weak link in Seattle? Look at what they did last year with Russell Wilson. It was Russell Wilson. He couldn't make the plays that he used to make. He couldn't get the ball down the field. He wasn't as accurate on those big plays to Metcalf and Lockett. He hit them occasionally, but not very often. Now that he's gone, watch Baker Mayfield come in and start hitting those big bombs. And also, they've got 3 solid running backs there with a good offensive line. And not to mention, Tampa's going to have no problem scoring points. They also need to sign Cole Beasley if he ever gets done recording his latest rap album. But I think if you add Cole Beasley to Tampa, they're going to be unstoppable.
Jeff, does your opinion change on this game if they do land a Baker Mayfield or Nick Foles?
I'm going to be serious. No.
Okay. Because that was a serious
the
question.
First time he's serious about Nick Foles.
Pete Carroll's going to run the ball. He drafted a running back. He's got 3 starting running backs. What do you think Pete Carroll's going to do? The games with Seattle are going to be hyper ugly this year. I don't know what honestly, as every day I go on, the things Pierce says can't get any crazier, and then we come on the show, and lo and behold, Russell Wilson is the problem with the Seahawks. So, I don't know, man.
What do you have something to say, Pierce? It looked like you did.
So when you run a run-heavy offense, they have to bring safeties down. That allows you to take the deep shots. It works perfectly for their system. That's what they do. That's how you get these DK Metcalf Lockett bombs.
Look at that. Reed loves it. Yeah, Reed, incoming contract extension for DK Metcalf. I don't know, there's some reports out there trying to get it done. One more for you guys. South of the border, we're going to see the 49ers and Cardinals, a divisional showdown on a Monday night in Mexico. Will Kyler Murray be happy then? Will Trey Lance be under center for the 49ers? Hopkins should be back. Don't forget about the drama we've seen with the turf, the grass there in this stadium. It's hard to see this game unfolding without some kind of drama, Jeff. Another early lean maybe towards the under, 48-point total right now?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to lean, again, look, I'm trying to talk in hypotheticals. You don't have to bet every single future game on the Euro Tour schedule. It's out on the DraftKings Sportsbook right now. But if I'm looking at this game and you're saying, like, I'm picking a side today, I am picking the under here. Both these teams, Arizona went 8-10 to the under last year, 8-12 to the under for San Francisco. Same head coaches, same teams. Both these teams love to run the ball. San Francisco 4th in run plays per game. Arizona 12th. Arizona's bringing back James Conner so they can run him into the defensive line for 2 yards again. This game, I think, has a very good chance of hitting the under. You're going to see a 24-22 game kind of thing, closer. But San Francisco will probably prevail. But 48, that actually seems pretty big to me right now. And you asked me to take a side, I'm taking the under today.
All right, Pierce, take a side.
I will also take the under, with all due respect to Mexico on Cinco de Mayo. If you remember last time that they played, I think it was the last time, they had real air pollution issues. And if you can't breathe, it's really hard to play football. It's really hard to score a lot of points. I'll take the under. Also, these teams this season, I like both the offenses, but they battled injuries all season long. I don't see why that would change moving forward. I mean, there's a really good chance that we could have backup quarterbacks starting for both of the teams in this game.
I mean, Reed, if you can't breathe, like, it's hard to live.
This is the the air pollution, but also the elevation. Right,
Yeah.
That's the other thing in Mexico. There's a lot of elevation, but this is why Pierce should be the new Mr. Unlimited. This guy brings umpire stats, wind stats, air pollution stats. He is just a wealth of useless knowledge that we need on the sweat. But I'm with these guys. Give me the under. And if Trey Lance is under center and he's essentially playing as a rookie, right, in his second year, he's going to be running a lot more than he's going to be passing. So yeah, give me the under.
Yeah. Pierce wears many hats here at DK, which is why he's going to be on the program a little later, because he's got NASCAR price check. At some point, Jeff, you got to join in on that fun. I heard last weekend or last Monday didn't really go well for you. But you guys are done. We're done talking NFL. We are going to poke over to the Diamond Best DFS and Sportsbook plays for tonight right after this. Let's take a gander at who you're going to have to fork out some serious cash for on DraftKings. Some of the heavy hitters, top-priced hitters. Nolan Arenado, no surprise. Bryce Harper. Manny Machado is off to a scorching start. And then Byron Buxton rounding out the top five there, $5,500. DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne, Steve Buchanan, RotoWire's Eric Halterman are here. We're going to take a gander, a little MLB batting practice, so best DFS and sportsbook plays. We're talking the 6-game night slate tonight. Before we do that, Steve, what was up with that umpire yesterday? Like the whole massaging of the hand, that seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's got a soft spot for country boys. That's the only thing that I could come up with.
But how, don't you think the league should do something here?
Absolutely. And they should be doing things with umpires for a lot of reasons. That's just one of them. But, with how bad the pitch calling has been, now we got him massaging Madison Bumgarner's hands, seeing what kind of lotion he uses. It's getting a little weird.
All right, Eric, wait, what are we doing here? I get it with the hand. Here, you want to try it again? Right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so what should the league do to Eric Bolino here? Is that his name? Yeah.
I think this is really what's holding robot umpires back. I don't think they give very good massages, so I think we're probably a few more years away after that incident.
Garion, does Major League Baseball have an umpire problem right now?
I mean, for a number of different reasons, sure. Probably should institute, sort of how you have to be 35 years old to be the president. You should probably have to be under 45 or 50 to be a Major League umpire. That would be
That's a good idea.
I didn't know that.
I also think, Eric can back this up probably better than I can, but I think the KBO has probably the best system in place where umpires, if they make a mistake, are demoted to the minors. There's an actual grading system for their umpires, and they are, their job is on the line. I know it's a little tough with the umpiring union here, but there has to be some sort of accountability for being bad at your job.
You got a must-roster guy tonight, Garion, pitcher or hitter?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Byron Buxton. I think he's going to be relatively popular tonight. I don't really care. He's in the lineup, I'm pretty sure. He got the night off last night. The Twins are being understandably cautious with Buxton. I feel like he's going to get probably at least one night off a week. But going up against Spencer Watkins, who has just struggled immensely with right-handed batters so far in his career, a 4.22 WOBA within the split. He's allowed the 179 righties he's faced in his career to compile a 342 batting average. And he's also just a low strikeout pitcher, just a 10.5% strikeout rate. You do not want Byron Buxton getting batted ball events. He has barreled up 25% of his batted ball events so far this season. That's why he leads baseball in isolated power and slugging percentage. So I think this is the perfect matchup for Buxton. Like I said, he'll be popular, but I think he's a really good starting point for your lineups.
All right, Bukes, we're talking just the night slate here, 6 games. Who's your must-roster guy?
Manny Machado has been on one as of late. Double-digit fantasy points in 7 of his last 8 games. He has been absolutely crushing the ball, kind of carrying the freight without Fernando Tatis Jr. in that lineup. Tonight he goes up against Jesus Luzardo, who is pitching more like the prospect the Oakland Athletics thought they had, but then they traded away. He's been pitching much better, but Machado against lefties has always been the sweet spot for him. You look at some of his numbers so far this season against lefties, not a ton of plate appearance against them so far, only 28, but in that span, 562 WOBA, 375 isolated power, and a 274 WRC plus. Those are some pretty damn good numbers. So on a slate that isn't overly big tonight, I think Manny Machado at third base is definitely one of the plays to make.
His teammate Eric Hosmer is ridiculously hot right now, Steve.
Yeah, he's actually not hitting ground balls. It's amazing.
Eric.
Guy gets married, and now he can hit fly balls. It's incredible.
I know.
Not a coincidence.
And he's expecting a kid, in the next few months as well. It's like that early dad strength. Eric, is there someone who's not going to hit ground balls that you like tonight?
Wow.
Yeah, I like the guys those two mentioned at the very top tier. If you go down a little bit at the 4,500 range, I like Austin Meadows. He doesn't have a homer yet this season, but he's doing everything else, hitting 299, 393, 390. Good for a 139 WRC plus. And he's seeing the ball very well. An 11.2% walk rate against just a 13.5% strikeout rate. He hasn't had huge strikeout problems in most of his seasons, but he hasn't been a guy who makes this kind of contact either. And I think that power should come eventually. We're talking about a guy who had 33 and 27 homers in his last 2 full seasons. One of the reasons I like him here, especially, is he's facing Jose Urquidy, who is not a guy that I'm a particularly big fan of. He has plenty of fans. Coming into the year, he had a 3.55 ERA. That was beating some of the ERA estimators by about a full run. Doesn't really get strikeouts, especially this year, down to a 15.1% strikeout rate. And yeah, he doesn't walk people, but he gives up so much contact, and that contact is in the air with a ground ball rate under 30%. I think Meadows hits his first homer of the season tonight.
Bukes, who you want for a value play? Give me the best guy in your opinion.
Yeah, Max Kepler should be back in the lineup tonight for the Twins. Twins are getting a lot of their lineup back here tonight, presumably. But going up against Spencer Watkins, who spells his first name really strange, but I'm not going to hold that against him. That's his parents' thing. But Watkins, you look at his numbers across the board. Got a 2.55 ERA. Looks nice. Then you got a 5.19 FIP. Something's coming, and it's going to probably come tonight against the Twins. Kepler is really quietly starting to put together a solid run as of late, averaging 10.2 DraftKings fantasy points over the last 10 games, 4 home runs, 2 doubles, 9 RBI in that span, only 3,500. Those are some pretty good numbers for somebody who is near the minimum at 3,500. So if Kepler's back in the lineup tonight, should have a good spot in the lineup going up against the righty. That is obviously where he hits well. Probably batting 5th tonight, so at 3,500, feels like a bit of a steal.
Gare Bear, hook me up with your value play.
Yeah, so I'm going to make a little assumption that Jose Altuve and his very sore groin are not going to be playing in tonight's game. Maybe that's a bit presumptuous, but it's at least a situation to watch out for. And if Altuve is not playing, that means the Astros are going to need a leadoff hitter, and it's probably going to be Chas McCormick, who is just $3,000 going up against Tarik Skubal. I like Skubal, but he's still a left-handed pitcher who has been prone to the home run ball in prior aspects of his career, although he's kind of smoothed that out a little bit so far this season. But McCormick, 304 average, 129 WRC plus so far against left-handed pitching in 2022. And like I said, he has primarily been the Astros leadoff hitter when Jose Altuve has been unavailable, specifically against left-handed starters. So if you're going to get the Astros leadoff guy for $3,000, I almost don't need a name. It's just Astros leadoff hitter for $3,000, and you stick that person to a lineup.
Eric, best value play tonight.
We've already talked about a couple Twins outfielders, and there's a third who, if he's in the lineup, I'd love to get, and that's Trevor Larnick at 2,500. He's hitting 300 this season. That's probably not going to last. It comes with a 450 BABIP, and he's striking out over 31% of the time. But he's hitting the ball hard, a 10% barrel rate, a 47.5% hard hit rate. And that was his profile as a prospect. We expected to see some contact questions, which have held him back from really taking the next step at the big league level so far, but he is expected to hit the ball hard. In Camden Yards, where they moved left field back, shouldn't affect him as much as a left-handed hitter. We've already talked, Steve has talked about Spencer Watkins, how attractive of an opponent he is. We're talking about a guy who has as many walks as strikeouts this season, really didn't show anything at all last year either for his career. He's at a 6.72 ERA, so I want to load up on the Twins. And anybody cheap with the platoon advantage, if they're in the lineup, becomes interesting in this matchup.
Okay, let's go. Last one here, guys. Which game are you targeting for a money line or run total bet, Steven?
Yeah, there's not a lot of overly attractive plays that I like on this slate here. I think the Mariners as underdogs at plus 115 is something going against the Rays, not just because Robbie Ray is taking the mound. I mean, that's obviously a big part of it there, but yep, Gary loves that too. I just saw Jeff Street. He loves it. He loves Robbie Ray. But going up against Shane McClanahan, I mean, honestly, really 2 strong starting pitchers taking this one here. But I like getting the Mariners at the plus money at plus 115. That Rays bullpen has been a little inconsistent as of late. So I think getting the Mariners at plus 115 is one of the better underdog plays you can get on the board tonight on a board that, quite frankly, underdogs don't look overly attractive.
Gary, and you feeling that?
I mean, I just love Robbie Ray. I'll forever love Robbie Ray.
Right.
A lot of money. A lot of Robbie Ray money. I'm going to look at the Marlins going up against the Padres. And this is just a spot where I think Nick Martinez, regression is going to hit him really hard tonight. I mean, you look at not even like his advanced numbers, just some baseline stuff. If you're walking 5.5 guys per 9 innings and giving up 2.3 home runs per 9 innings. That's bad. Those are about the 2 worst things you can do. A 93% strand rate is not going to continue to save this guy throughout the entirety of the season. There's a reason his expected ERA is 6.64 heading into tonight's start. And I think the sneaky thing about the Marlins is they're a really good offensive team. They sort of retooled this offseason and got just a bunch of big power bats, add in sort of the emergence of Jesus Sanchez and obviously the continued emergence of Jazz Chisholm. They're the 4th best team by WRC plus across the last 2 weeks. They can hit. So I would probably say my favorite bet in this game is just taking the Marlins team total. It's 3.5 runs. I like the over there. But in terms of a money line bet, I think the Marlins at -110 going up against Nick Martinez with Jesus Luzardo on the mound, who's pitched really, really well so far this season. I think they're undervalued there.
Eric, hook me up.
Well, first I got to say on my short list was the opposite side of that Rays-Mariners game, in part because Shane McClanahan is having what could be the start of a Cy Young season. He's been one of the best pitchers in the league this year. And I love 2021 Robbie Ray. So I love 2022 Robbie Ray with the strikeout rate down to below 21% and his velocity down as well. It's not my top bet just because Robbie Ray did look better in his last start. His velocity was back up and he struck out 8. So I'm a little scared to take the Rays at, I think it's -135 now. But for an underdog, I do like the Tigers +130 over the Astros. It seems like it's moving in their direction. It was +140 earlier. I already talked about how I don't trust Jose Urquidy at all. Gives up way too much contact, and that contact is in the air. Tarik Skubal on the other side, I do actually quite like 3.05 ERA, and it's supported by his underlying numbers this season. Isn't striking out as many guys as he did last year, but his walk rate of just 3.4% and a ground ball rate over 50%. He's becoming a more well-rounded pitcher. If you go back over the last calendar year, he now has a 3.89 ERA, nearly 27% strikeout rate, and a walk rate under 6%. So I think he is a good deal better than Urquidy here, which gives me enough confidence in the Tigers at that +130.
You guys were absolutely tremendous today. Thank you so much to you three. We teased it earlier, so we have to deliver on said tease. We have more NASCAR picks actually on this show tomorrow. Pierce and Jeff will continue their motorsports rivalry, but let's go ahead and wet the whistle, shall we, with a little NASCAR price check.
Welcome to the Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Darlington, whose salary jumped up this week. Ross Chastain, $8,600 up to $9,700. Shocking to see his price near $10,000, but he's earned it. He finished 3rd at Darlington last fall. Austin Dillon, $7,600 up to $8,500. Not on board with this price increase. Yes, he has 3 top 3s this season, but in his other races, he's finished 10th or worse. Eric Jones, $6,800 up to $7,700. This is a mistake by DraftKings. Yes, the track history looks good, but that was with JGR last season with RPM. He finished 32nd and 18th at Darlington. Whose salary dropped this week? Joey Logano, $10,600 down to $9,200. Team Penske is struggling this season. You're getting a discount here. Ryan Blaney, $10,300 down to $9,400. This is Blaney's worst track. 10 races, his average finish is 19th. William Byron, $11,000 down to $10,100. He blew a tire at Darlington last fall, but in the 2 Darlington races before that, he had top 5 finishes. Favorite play of the week, Kyle Larson, $11,000. He finished 2nd in both races last season. He scored the most fantasy points in the fall. He scored the 2nd most fantasy points in the spring race. Martin Truex Jr., $10,500. He won the spring race and scored 138 fantasy points. He should have won the fall race as well. All right, guys, check out DK Nation for all your DFS information and needs. If you have NASCAR questions, find me on Twitter at Race for the Prize. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Catch me on DK Live.
Here we go. We are absolutely back. I was trying to put a Hootie and the Blowfish song on my reel of holding Samir's hand here. Anywho, we got to talk some hockey. We don't have time, guys, to react to last night because we're running really tight on time. But Paul, sorry about the Lightning coming to life and knocking off Toronto there. But we have NHL.com editor Anna Dua here, RotoWire's riveting duo of AJ Scholes. He's back. Paul Bruno, he's back. Let's see. AJ, all 4 winning teams last night put up at least 5 goals each. 4 more games tonight. Who's a dude at center in a good spot to deliver chunky fantasy points for the people?
I mean, I just don't know how you get away from Nathan McKinnon in this one. The matchup's just so good. Yeah, it's a heavy price tag, and paying up can be a little bit difficult sometimes. But look, this guy's just been too good to avoid using Nathan McKinnon tonight. I can't get away from him. If you want somewhere lower to kind of do like a high-low combo, I'd look at Sam Bennett with the Panthers at 4,400. He's similarly priced to a guy like Matt Duchene, who, in that under 5K, good value with goals in back-to-back games for Bennett. The Panthers offense should continue to roll as well. But McKinnon is for sure my play tonight.
Anna, who's your play?
I'm on the same page as AJ this time. It's so difficult to argue against Nate McKinnon. He has 43 points since the beginning of the 2020 postseason till now in just 26 games played. That's the most points per game out of any player in the league who's played at least 10 playoff games in that span. He has to be one of the best skaters in the postseason out there. And with Nashville still not having Saros back in net, I don't know how you couldn't go with Colorado. Bennett, a great other option. However, you can't really discount Duchene that much. He plays so well against his former team. He has 4 goals in 3 games against Nashville. So if you want to roll with Duchene, you can, but it's tough to go against McKinnon.
Paul, Anna, and AJ teaming up. But game 1 between the Avs and Preds, that was over before the first period ended, dude.
You know what? Whenever the other 2 people on our panel go against me, you know where the money should be going, right?
Yeah.
Based on my history here, there's no question. So I'll give you the right answer. It's Barkov and Lindholm, the number 1 centers on both Florida and Calgary, prohibitive favorites in their respective games. I don't know how you stop the Florida offense, and I don't think they're going to figure out in this series either. And Calgary was limited to 1 goal. Lindholm was the one that scored it. I think he's in for a bigger night along with the rest of that offense. So $7,300, $6,000 respectively. I'd rather go there than the high-low that the other 2 are.
Paul, I look forward to waking up tomorrow morning and seeing a tweet from you at like 1 a.m. Eastern time saying that you got it right, you got the pick right. Let's go to the wings and things department. Anna, which winger do you need in your DFS lineup? You got 3 that are going to cost you at least $7,000. You going that high up?
I am not. I'm actually going Kasperi Kapanen out of Pittsburgh. So Kapanen had a great game in that triple OT win against the Rangers. He had 8 shots on net, had an assist on that game-winning goal, and he was playing on Pittsburgh's third line. Just got elevated after the injury to Rickard Rakell. Is playing with Evgeny Malkin. That's only going to help his point production. He had 3 points last postseason in 6 playoff games for the Penguins, 1 goal, 2 assists, 12 shots on goal during that period of time. So I'm going Kapanen tonight.
Paul, where are you going?
When was the last time you saw a 50-goal scorer with a price tag less than $6,000? The answer is tonight. Chris Kreider, $5,900. Bargain City against the Penguins. I don't think this one's going to go to overtime, and the Rangers need to have it. So I got to expect their big guns will be firing tonight. And going back to that Calgary game, Matthew Tkachuk, $5,700. Give me that every day. This guy's a spark plug for this team, the heart and soul of the club. And along with his line mates on that first line, they'll be in for a big night. So it could be a Calgary stack, and it won't even cost that much.
AJ, who do you want at the wing?
Well, I absolutely hope Anna's right, and Kapanen has a big game. That's point number 1 here. Let's all keep our fingers crossed for that one. But I think Paul's on the right guy here. Matthew Tkachuk, like, even if he were priced towards the top of the range, if he was in that $7,000 area, I'd probably consider him. You're talking about a guy on a 9-game point streak, but especially at 5,700, like, I absolutely want to give him a look here. And I'd also consider to get a share of that Florida offense, Carter Verhaeghe. Production hasn't been huge of late, but he's still getting those looks on that top line at just 3,200. And spending that low is going to give you a lot of roster flexibility if you want to go up for a McKinnon or somebody else higher in the range. So there's a trio of guys that I would look at there.
All right, AJ, is it going to give you some flexibility back on the blue line?
I'm going to continue going a little bit lower, but that is one option. Obviously, Cale Makar is always in play here, and that could be where you want to spend up. For me, I'm going to target Pittsburgh's Mike Matheson here. Just a really solid floor, 24 shots, 15 blocks in his last 10 games. There's only 2 assists there, but he's going to continue getting minutes with that number 2 power play unit. So that high shot volume should stay up. He's actually had 10 of those shots in the last 2 games. Won't break the bank for you. But you could obviously, if you want to load up on Penguins, you could go Letang. And Makar, as I said, is always in play. But if you need a little lower value, I like Mike Matheson tonight.
All right, Anna, Roman, then there's Kale, like $8,200, $7,900 respectively. Then a huge drop off to Letang at 6'4".
For sure. And, Kale McCarr, you can't go wrong. But what about his defensive partner in Devon Taves? He had a goal. He had 4 shots on net. He had 1 block in that game 1. He's playing with Kale McCarr, coming off of the best season of his NHL career with 57 points, 13 goals, 44 assists in the 66 regular season games he played. He now has 3 points, 1 goal, 2 assists, and 9 shots on net in 4 games against the Predators. So you can save a little bit by going with Devon Taves instead of McCarr.
All right, Paul. Who's your guy back on defense?
I like the calls that the other two have made. I'm going to add 2 more cheapies to the list, and these guys are both in good situations. Brandon Montour of Florida got 7 points in his last 10 games played, a career-high 37-point season, so don't sleep on him in terms of offensive possibilities behind that Florida attack. Only $3,500. Then Bowen Byram of Colorado, they're going to run up another big score, and he's got the offensive upside too, getting a lot of offensive starts in his play. They're insulating this guy so that he's not exposed defensively, and he's quite a capable scorer, as he displayed all through his junior career. And with 5 points in 10 games, starting to show it at the NHL level, that only costs you $2,700.
And there's always the usual suspects here in the postseason, but the NHL playoffs are also filled with some unsung heroes. So hook me up with a value play tonight that you like on this 4-game slate.
For sure. I've made Paul way too happy in my first month here, so I'm going to make AJ super happy.
Yeah.
I'm all the way at the end of the Penguins' defensive depth, and I'm going John Marino. He's at 2,600. He set up that triple OT winner that Malkin deflected in to give the Penguins that win, and he had 5 shots on goal during that game, tied with Chris Letang for the most shots out of any Penguins defenseman, but Marino played under 30 minutes despite playing almost 2 full hockey games. He had a great block right after the Penguins had to switch their goalies in double OT to Domingue, and he had 2 blocks throughout that game, just aware of the puck the entire time, played well during regulation, played even better during all those overtime periods. I could see a big game for him tonight again.
Yeah, congrats on that win, by the way, AJ.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know how much you had to do with it.
I contributed so much to that one, really helped out the guys there. But no, great win. For me, as far as value goes, I'm going to look to the morning skates here. Sam Reinhart is going to switch places with Claude Giroux on that second line. Now, this shouldn't impact Giroux, so if you want to use him, I think he's still in play. He'll be on the number 1 power play unit and is certainly capable of carrying his own line. Reinhart, however, gets bumped up to play with Sam Bennett and Jonathan Huberdeau, so $4,400. A pretty good value for a guy that's going to play with some top offensive producers there.
Yeah, Florida has not won a playoff series since its 1996 run to the Stanley Cup final. Paul, a value play tonight.
3 guys at sub 5,000, and they all have very good roles tonight. Val Nichushkin of Colorado goes up to the top line there for $4,700, playing in place of Landeskog, who's dropped into the second line. Guy had a career best 52-point season in 62 games played, and he's played a 2-way game too, so they got a lot of faith in him, and his plus 21 rating earns that recognition. Committing to a strong 2-way game, getting in good situations earned him this promotion, so watch out for him. I agree with the call on Claude Giroux. He's had a very nice run with Florida in terms of the offense he's provided, better than a point per game his entire time there, only $4,600. Then finally, Frankie Vitrano of the Rangers for $4,000, maybe the best of the lot, the definitive unsung hero in my opinion. He gets right wing role on the top line tonight, along with a right wing on the second power play, finishing the regular season with 18 goals in 71 games. Got a good chance to pad those numbers tonight.
Hockey squad, love you, mean it. Enjoy the slate tonight. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. One more break to go, one more block to go. We'll look back at what went down last night around the NBA. A couple teams taking 2-0 series lead. We'll also look ahead to a couple games coming up next, and we got some odds to discuss. All right, check out Wednesday's top NBA scores. So there was a couple games. So Miami takes a 2-0 series lead over the Joel Embiid-less 76ers. Then you also have the Suns who take a 2-0 series lead over Dallas. So Jimmy Butler there, 52 points. I mean, Luka around the same neck of the woods. Chris Paul, like majority of his fantasy points there, 100% coming in the fourth quarter. Dude absolutely erupted. I think he's going to be turning young, ripe age of 37 here in just a few days. Let's dive into this a little bit. Our NBA panelists this morning, DraftKings contributor Matt Meiselman and Nick Fryer. Good to see you guys. And then host of the Four Seasons podcast, Ball is Life, Ryan Mogjosh. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see everybody today. So Heat with a comfortable win. Fryer, what are the chances the Sixers can come back in this thing? Like, do we even know what's happening with Joel Embiid?
I would say the chances they come back in this are 0. As much as I did like them coming into the series with Joel Embiid healthy, he is not. And even when and if he does come back, I don't trust that he's going to be the guy that he can be. The only question to me now is it's going to be done in 4 games or is it going to be done in 5? I don't think it's going to go 6 because I don't think Joel Embiid is going to be that same guy when he comes back. I think he can give them, 1 win, lift them to that point. But I think what we've seen in this series is the Sixers have been exposed. More specifically, James Harden has been exposed. Doc Rivers as well. We've been reminded how he's had success over his career, but really he's not as good as we thought he was. And James Harden, I mean, again, it breaks my heart to see James Harden failing in the playoffs yet again. But I think we need to realize that this is what this guy does in the postseason. He is not the alpha. He cannot lead a team, far in the postseason at all. So yeah, I have no problem saying this series is going to be done in 5. It's just a matter of if Embiid comes back, it might not be a sweep.
Ryan, which series out of these two is likely going to end in a sweep?
If I had to choose one, it's this Heat-Sixers game, but I don't think there's 0 chance. Like, the Sixers could have a bad pregame meal and have to forfeit. But that's basically it. I don't like their odds. The Heat play such solid defense, and they scheme perfectly. Spo is a mastermind. I don't think that he gets enough credit. But it's just plug and play. As long as you can play defense, you're going to play for the Heat. They're doubling James Harden every single time he crosses half court. They're going to say, okay, Maxey, go beat us, which Maxey played very well last night. But Embiid, I think, helps. If they have any hope, the Sixers in coming back, Embiid's going to have a monster game 3 or 4, but I don't see it happening. I have Heat sweeping.
Maddie, I mean, Suns with a convincing win. Like, is it time to start looking at them in a sweep, plus 220, or the Suns in 5 at plus 170?
I mean, I like the Suns, but I have to respond to the Miami thing because if Joel Embiid is playing, I think the Sixers are better than the Heat. I really believe that. And maybe it's a 50% healthy version of Embiid, and then it's a different conversation. But I agree with a lot of what these guys are saying when it comes to James Harden and Doc Rivers. And DeAndre Jordan, of course, is not a very good player, but Embiid fixes all of those problems. I mean, obviously, DeAndre Jordan's not playing very much, if at all, if Embiid's healthy. So I don't think this series is over unless Embiid's not playing. So I'll leave it there. Like, if he's done, they're done for sure. But I don't think the Heat are that great of a team. And we saw different points this year where they were healthy and just weren't good. And Eric Spoelstra was the coach of the team for the whole season, and they still had defensive lapses and offensive lapses. Like, they were not a team that just coasted to the 1 seed. They got out to a really strong start to the regular season, avoided COVID issues and injuries better than most teams, and then kind of backed into the 1 seed while other teams almost wound up catching them. So, like, I think this series is live, but it's all contingent on Embiid. Like, I don't know if he's going to play, and if he doesn't, then this clearly doesn't look very good for Philly. But I think that plus 500 is like a pretty insane value if Embiid is back for Game 3.
All right, so back to the original question. Then Suns in the sweep, plus 220, or Suns in 5, plus 170?
I think those are fine bets. It's not where I would attack it, though. I think Suns minus 120 to win the Western Conference is really my favorite way to go about betting the Suns right now, because I think the Warriors are just a bit overrated, and I think the Grizzlies are still live in that series. But either way, I think the Suns are a lot better than both of those teams. So I do think the Suns win the series pretty easily. I think those are enticing bets to win in either 4 or 5, but I'm much more excited to just take minus 120 to win the Western Conference.
I mean, Nick, that was a back-and-forth game. The Mavs held a 2-point lead heading into halftime, but it quickly got out of hand in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I know that game one was a lot closer as well, but just I think that the Mavericks are overmatched. And it's funny, I look at this too and think, like, how bad does this look for the Jazz too, where I just feel like they should have been able to steal that series. But anyways, on this one, I'm with Suns in 5. I do think they're just a better team. I think they could sweep them, but I think the NBA will intervene and then find somebody out there. I'm sure there's one rep that could stretch a Chris Paul series out there. I don't know exactly who that might be, but I think this is going to be in 5 because just a better team, and it'll be a gentleman's sweep.
All right, Mock Josh, talk to me.
Yeah, Suns in 5 I like plus 170. The end score of a lot of these games don't tell the whole story. Like last night's score was a blowout, but the game wasn't a blowout. And game 1 and game 2, a lot of these series is close, and then there's a run. In either the third, in the Suns' case, the fourth quarter, where Chris Paul looks like he starts to try and take over. And he was talking in the post-game press conference that Theo Pinson on the bench was just talking so much trash, and he said that helped him elevate his game and try to just really stick it to him. So you can't score watch when you're picking and choosing these games. So I think the Mavs will get one of these games where they're at home. I think that they'll adjust and hopefully make changes to where, okay, Chris Paul's going to start trying in the fourth quarter. We're going to have to stop this run if we want to win. So I think as soon as adjustments are made and they catch on to these trends, I think the Mavs steal one. But again, I think the Suns handle this series.
Fryer, no games tonight. The other two series, we know they're tied at 1. Memphis plus 235 here to win the series after they were able to salvage a split in the 2 games on their home court. You like those odds by any chance for the Grizz to move on?
You know, my heart likes those odds. I love the Grizzlies, even back to Mike Conley days, but I can't go with them here because as much as Ja Morant's heroics have kept, even this series and kept them in, made the first game competitive, I just like Golden State too much. I don't think that's enough to beat them. You look at what Desmond Bane's done throughout this series. He's supposed to be your second best scorer. And even in the regular season, we saw him struggle against the Warriors too. Not saying he can't adjust, but I just don't like what we've seen from him so far. And then in that game was a 5-point game, and you had Steph Curry 3 for 11 from 3.
Yep.
Klay Thompson 2 for 12 from 3.
Yep.
I mean, you only win by 5. I feel like that's not going to get done. And this series is going back to Golden State now.
Yeah, that's a good point that Nick makes there, Matt, because the Grizzlies needed bad performances from some of the top dogs on the Warriors, and then they needed Ja Morant to put up almost 50 points, and they still just barely won.
So I actually think that this path to victory is repeatable. Part of it is Gary Payton II is not going to be playing the rest of the series. And that was a similar logical mind versus emotional mind conflict for me because I love Gary Payton II. I've been talking about him being a X-factor, low-key, important player for this team all year. And in this series, he's the only guy really who can stop Ja Morant. So I was really sad to see him go down. But at the same time, as someone who's backing the Grizzlies in this series, this is a huge help for them. So I think that Morant will have an easy time scoring on this team because the Warriors have no one else who can stop him. And then on the point about Curry and Klay, the Grizzlies are much better defensively now than they were in the regular season. I think Morant is really picking up his effort on the defensive end. And this is a guy where there's no reason why he can't be a great defender. It probably was, inexperience and effort in the regular season. He has all the athletic tools to do it. And I think he's doing it now. And then we're seeing DeAnthony Melton play more, and he's a really good defender too, probably the best on this team. So I think it is a really tough matchup actually for the Warriors. And I like the Grizzlies to win this series. I think these are very close teams. I don't know if I'd pick them if the line was even money. I probably wouldn't at that point, but I do think it's going to be very close. And to me, anything over plus 200 is a really, really strong value here.
Okay, Ryan, do you agree with that? Is this strong enough value where it's you can't ignore it?
No, not necessarily. Matt brings up a good point that Gary Payton is the guy that they would put on Morant. And obviously they need to make adjustments because he went off for 47 or 45 or whatever it was. But you guys nailed it with the Warriors shooting. 7 for 38, 18% from 3 is an anomaly. And I was going to be shocked to go back and look and see if they've ever shot that poorly in a game this season. They actually did. January 5th, they made 5 threes all game, which is the only game all year that they've shot that bad. So I think this is an anomaly. I don't see Memphis winning this series. But there's a role player in this game, in this series, that I kind of like what he did last game, and I think they figured out some stuff. Andrew Wiggins. surprisingly, the only guy that can't knock down open threes. I think he shot 1 for 7. I don't feel confident when he's pulling up from 3. But the offensive rebounds and the rebounding and the stuff inside, when their shots aren't falling outside, go inside. Wiggins has the pogo stick where he jumps up, misses a shot, the quickest second jump in the league that I think I've seen. Look for him to be a sneaky roll guy if you're playing DFS for value plays there.
Okay, well, I'm glad you bring up role players here, Ryan, because the Celtics and Bucks, they're tied at 1 game each, and it's been value plays like a Grant Williams and a Grayson Allen kind of making the difference in each game. So which value player do you think can lead their team to a series victory in that one?
This one is a bit different because I think the Bucks win this series overall, and I think Giannis is the reason for that. I don't see a team stopping Giannis yet for 4 games. But as far as role players go, I think since I have this Bucks narrative of them winning, it's a Bucks wing. And Wes Matthews has been getting the starts, but you got to keep an eye on Wes Matthews, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen. Whoever one of those 3 wings are that's hitting their shots on any given night, it's pretty a lucky thing. You got to start the right one, but Pat Connaughton was chucking last game and Grayson Allen was not, which is surprising because the trend had been Grayson Allen. So it's one of those 3 guys who's just going to have the on night, and you got to hit that.
All right, Fryer, 3-point shots probably aren't going to fall as much as they did in Game 2 for the Celtics, but that defense should continue to put pressure on Giannis.
Yeah, and I think the reason Grayson Allen didn't take a whole lot of shots last game, he's too busy trying to pick up his shorts after Jaylen Brown broke his ankles.
Oh, man.
I think that's what it was.
He had him playing Twister, dude.
Yeah, he did. But I think Pat Connaughton, when you're looking from a DFS perspective, Pat Connaughton is a good call. But when we're talking about making a difference for actually winning these ball games, I do agree that Giannis stopping him over 4 games is tough, but we've seen the Celtics kind of slow him down over these first 2 games. Big part of that has been Al Horford, who, not a value player, obviously a starter. He's low, mid-range kind of guy when we're talking about DFS. But Grant Williams is another guy. We saw him step up, and defensively, this is one of the big things that he can do is he can handle an athletic, strong guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not many can, and when I say handle, there's a big difference between what they did to like Kevin Durant and what they did with Giannis and some of these other star players that they can handle. But when you have a guy go and take 27 shots and he puts up 28 points, I mean, like you did your job. That's what you've got to do against a guy like that. So I think Grant Williams, to me, when you're looking at values, he's the one.
Yeah, he's a role player, but in Game 2, he was a star. Less than 1 minute in the show, Maddie. Who's a value play in this series who can help his team win it?
Well, anyone who's listened to me talk for more than 5 seconds this year knows I'm going to lean towards Nick and the Celtics because that's my team at this point. I just have to. But I think Al Horford is as suited to guard Giannis as just about anybody in the league. And then I do think Grant Williams is that guy who continues to be the bench contributor because Robert Williams just doesn't make as much sense in this matchup. Derek White, I mean, I thought the Celtics would be fine without Smart because of White. That didn't really end up happening. They did win the game, but Derek White didn't even score a point, I think. But it seems like in this series, Grant Williams is the role player they want with their stars as that filler piece. So I think the minutes are going to be there, and for that reason, he probably is a guy who continues to be a strong value play going forward.
All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate you, Hoop Heads. Love you. Mean it. The show is over. Madden starts at high noon over on YouTube and Twitch, and then catch Adam Kaufman and Sweet Tea Fowler tonight, 5 o'clock on the DraftKings YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter pages for a Thirsty Thursday edition of The Slate. This show is back tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Peace. Oh.